Hello there and welcome. My name is Jimmy Wikman, and in this video we're going to talk about the Atlassian cloud changes that rolled out between March 4th and March 11th. So let's jump directly into the blog and see what kind of new functionality Atlassian has presented for us this week. So here we are now in the blog, and we're going to look through the changes that have come out for this period. So let's jump right into it and see what we have. So the first one is filter issues by work category, and this is for the Jira Platform, so it means that it is available for all Jiras. And what they have done then is they had a new field in the issue navigator, so you can filter issues by work category. And this is not actually true, because the second one says to use this new filter from the issue navigator, select more than work category in the dropdown. This does not work, at least not for me, and at least not for Jira Service or Jira software projects. So to show you what this one is, I'm going to jump over into the test environment, to my test environment, and show you what it looks like. So here we are now in my test environment, and what they are talking about then is going to the issue view here. And I'm going to make sure that we have all issues, probably works everywhere, and we want to have the basic settings here. So this is the more button that they are referring to, and if you click on that one, you will see that you will have work category here. So far everything seems legit and everything seems to work. But for me at least, I don't know if this one is for everyone, but if I click on this one, it will tell me that I cannot actually use this one because I need to be in JQL mode. So I cannot use it in the UI. So I need to switch over to JQL. And if I do that, you will see that this one is a custom field. So that is one of the issues. And then you can now see then when we search for and see that what kind of items are these new things called work categories, you will see that they are, you recognize these from Jira Service Management. So service request, incident, problems, and changes, they are different work types that we have in Jira Service Management. And the same thing with post-incident reviews and developed escalations. All of these comes from Jira Service Management, but we are in a Jira software demo. Jira software project. So we have absolutely no use for any of these because we probably won't have any of these in our project. So the only way they will actually be useful is a JSM project, and I tested it, and you can use these for example, in your queues. So that is good. But we only use request types, so I'm not really sure what the intent is with this one, but I haven't really found a good use case for it. So either something is wrong in my instance here, that I have the wrong types of work types, or something in the implementation is a little bit off. So we'll see. We'll wait a few weeks and see if there's a bug with it, or if this one actually is working as intended. So let's jump back into the article or the blog and see what else we have. So filter issues by work category, that's the one we talked to, and now we have something that I don't like. I really don't like this. And we are talking about assets. So what they have done is that they have a maximum cardinality limit on multi-value attributes in assets. So in assets you can set cardinality for each connection that you have. And they now have a limit for it. And I don't mind the limit so much, but let me just take you through this one. So they first motivate why they want us to not build crappy schemas, which makes sense. We shouldn't build bad things, especially not when you have connections with different things. There should be a purpose for it, so we don't put a strain on the system unnecessarily. So they have a link here, for example, recommendations for how to structure your data, and we're going to go into those in just a minute. But just before that one, this is the part that I'm really annoyed about. So we have a maximum cardinality limit of 20,000 items. And for me, for example, I have all configurations for multiple platforms in assets. So that means that all configuration changes I make and all configurations, that's hundreds of thousands of items that I will have in there, and they will all be linked to one of my platforms. So So that means now that if this one, or when this one rolls out, I can no longer use the way assets the way I have it. I now need to split it up per instance. So I need to have around 2,000 object types then multiplied multiple times to get around this new restriction, because there's no hard restriction of 20,000 object per each object type attribute for assets. And that's not the worst part, and that is this part. If you exceed these limits, you cannot create further items. So basically I have a denial of service here. So I will now be denied being able to create new items in assets. And that is horrible. That goes against the do not F the customer part, because it should not be like that. You should not have anything that denies you your service. If there is that you can no longer have more than 20,000, well, don't create the link. Give a notification says the link could not be created, but you should never ever restrict me from having more items in assets. I'm paying for it, and quite handsomely, to be honest. So this one I'm not really happy about. And from a data perspective, if I look at database structure, this one seems to be built wrong, completely wrong, because I work with databases with assets that handle millions of connections, no problem whatsoever. So having one for 20,000, that is, for me, it is a scary indicator that they do not actually build these for scale, and that there's a problem with asset architecture. And we have this one in other places as well. I've talked before about the boards, for example, that have a 5,000 limits. That is also, there should never be a limit on the number of items, then you're not building it correctly. You should be able to build and scale infinitely if you do it correctly. So this one, Atlassian, I would like you very much to go back to the drawing board, and first and foremost, do not block us from working anymore. There are plenty of areas in assets where I see having excessive amount of connectors will cause problems. For example, the view, when you actually have the connectors, the visual connectors. Limit those. Absolutely, I'm 100% with you. Do not actually, you cannot draw out 20,000 connectors even visually. It will crash the browser. I'm absolutely with you on that one. But not being able to handle basically an infinite number of items means that there's an architectural problem at the bottom there. Handling 100 million items should not be a problem whatsoever. And also having connections between those items in the hundreds of thousands should not be a problem either. So I hope this one is just to be safe and having a number, because you haven't seen anyone actually using assets with a high number than this. But no, this one I totally object to. I don't think you will make people happy with it. And implementing it like this, like just a note, for people that have now very large databases with assets, you will basically kill their entire setup. And they will be forced now to not roll out any more functionality for their instances before they can actually completely rebuild their structure. And I don't think that they will be very happy knowing that you have a 20,000 item or connections with the cardinality. So I think you should go back to the drawing board on this one. I think you should pull this one back. I would rather have poor performance than you lock down my instance. So I cannot actually work with assets anymore. So no, this is terrible, terrible, terrible. But just to make it a little bit worse, let me take you then to this recommendation for how to structure your data and assets. So let's jump over to that one. So here we are now in the article, recommended data structure for asset schema. And this one is sad reading for anyone who works with large data sets. So for example, there's a recommended limit of 35 attributes per object type. That's not a lot. If you have something that is, maybe you need to then break it out so every object type reference or every attribute you have then needs somehow to be split out into different object types. So you handle that one. But 35 attributes is very little to have for this one. So I do not agree with this one at all. If it had been 350, yes, maybe. Depends on what kind of information you have in there. But if you're going to have information about your system, you want to have information of all your builds, you want to have information about all contacts, all relationships to other things, you want to have everything from quality to audits. 35 attributes is nothing. It is ridiculously low. So we need to have a lot more in the recommendations. And you also have it then based on the type here. So 35 attributes per object type, it's the same. 2 text areas. No, I don't think that's nearly enough. I don't use more than 2 at the moment, but I think that if you're going to have notes and you want to have a description and you want to have information about something in there, then 2 will not be enough. And I understand that this is just a recommendation, so you can have more. But the fact that they have set the limit to 2, which is so extremely low, this one scares me because I see this one as this one is probably inside the same data table as the object type, which it shouldn't be. This one should probably be in a separate one and should have them linked, because otherwise you will have bottlenecks. And 5,000 characters, I think it's okay. I would like to have the text editor for all of the text fields because we need to be able to format text, but that's another thing. And then this one, max 3 reference attributes. This is when you then refer to another object type. And having 3 references, no. This one is, I don't know who this one is for, but it's not for large-scale organizations that are working with asset management. This is more when you're working with services. So I don't know if this one is based on that one. But no, 3 references is nothing. And then each of them can have a maximum of 10 objects. So you can have 30 references basically into this one. I'm sorry, Atlassian, but this is ridiculously low. It's not even near what we need to be able to build big data sets. If I have 35 million items, or if I have 2 million items, or if I have 10, doesn't matter. I need to be able to populate it with the correct number of attributes. And 3 reference attributes is no. No. I can just tell you that just for documenting custom fields, for example, I have between 35 and maybe up to 100 projects that are linked to this. And this is just one of the fields that I have for them. That's a lot more than 10. And most of my custom fields have more than 10 references. So by this recommendation, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that one because it will cause performance issues. 1 user attribute object per 1 user attribute type per object. So if I want to have a team, for example, connected to a team who is responsible for this one, then I need to use one of these. I can no longer have them here because the maximum I can have is 1. So if I want to have contact people that are from a technical perspective, from a finance perspective, and so on, then this will not do. It's ridiculously low. And also groups. This is the same problem that we have with groups in general. Same thing if you want to do different automations with groups. There's a limit on it. I think 50 for automations. If you have more than 50 in a group, then it won't work. And here now they are setting even lower, 20 user. So if I have a group with 20 users, I mean, if you have an instance with several thousand users, most groups do not have 20 people in it. Then you will have thousands of groups, and no one works that way. So this one, I'm sorry, but if this is the level that we have for assets, if this is the maximum possibilities that we have for scale, so we can no longer have more than 20,000 references to one item, and we are limited, extremely limited here, then I don't think anyone will consider assets, and I'm being very honest here, I don't think anyone will choose Jira assets over a competitor. And there are competitors out there that they don't have these limitations, let's put it like that. So I'm concerned. as a user, I'm very concerned of where you're taking this one and where these limitations are going. These are, of course, just recommendations here, but the other one is a hard limitation. If you have more than 2,000 links or 20,000 links, it will kill assets. You will stop being able to create things, and you can't do this. This is completely against how your values here, because you are effing the customer here, because we can no longer work properly. So you need to look into this one. So enough bickering about this one. I'm sure they will solve it somehow, but for now, I'm not happy about this change. So let's go back and see if we can find something more positive, because we want to have positive things here. So we are back again, and let's move over to the next item. Use filters to search and display Jira issues. We have had this one, and this one I'm 100% sure was there last week, unless there's something else, if it was just a JQL here that they changed. But what they have done is they have improved then how you can then use filters to search and display Jira issues. And this is how then you can embed this one, so how you can actually add it. If you go to a Jira description or comment and you do the /Jira, so you will actually have the macro then for Jira issues. And then you can have basic selected, you can have project type, status or assignee, and then you can insert them. So this one we had before, so you can do that. And now you can also have, you can click anywhere on the list and you can select the edit button. And then you can change this one. So the only thing I think that they have changed here is that you can use keywords of JQL, and that you will then have the ability to add, remove, and reorder fields. So you can basically move them around a little bit. Overall, though, I think this is a great change, even if it was already announced last week, or if I misremember it. But yeah, I like this a lot, and it will help a lot also for different things. Let me just see so I can find the next one. There we go. And when we talked about restrictions up for assets now, the positive things is that they included or they added a 100 child issue limit on issues. And now they have increased that number to 500. Now, I don't know anyone who have more than 500, or rather I know people that have more than 500, and I've complained about it. But they are not using it the way Jira is supposed to be used. They have it for other things. But there's still that, why is it limited at all? What is the use for that? Why don't you just show 20 and then you will have a pagination that will automatically fetch the next 20? The count should not be very difficult to have. You should be able to run it once and cache it even. So I don't understand these limitations that are being placed on cloud. It feels like the architecture is not built for scale. And that one is something I think Atlassian need to address, because I'm not the only one that has this concern. And that we cannot really scale our SaaS solution because there are hard limitations in it. So while this one is very good, and I think 500 will satisfy 99.5% of everyone who uses Jira, because there's only these edge cases that are using it for like time reporting, or they're using it for trying to fetch all the activities connected to a customer or stuff like that. That is not really how you should use Jira. But it's still there, and it's still very much in the eye of people and the back of their heads that there are hard limitations that is very difficult to know. And that's not a good sign or not a good thing for the customers, that they feel that I'm not really sure if I can use this the way I have in my mind, because maybe there will be a limitation somewhere that I'm not aware of, and then my entire plan will go to waste. So you need to address this one, Atlassian. You need to address all the limitations, and you need to think about, is this a scalable solution? Or are you basically giving a lightweight version that we can use for small and medium companies? Because large companies, they need to be able to scale, and they need to be able to scale a lot. So this is something I think you need to address. But for this one, I think the majority of people are now happy that we went from 100 to 500. So this is a very good change. Yeah, and for the next one here, we are now in Jira Service Management. Again, they are talking about this limitation again. And so in this one, I don't think they have... they actually don't have the number here, which is weird. But it is the same limitation that we had above, so 20,000 that you can have for assets. And next one, I think we have a video for this one, and that one is that they have this match any attribute that was available in the API and in the queries before. And what they are doing now is that they are removing this one. And if I have a video for it, I think I have. So if I have, then it should be, let's see, where do we locate it? Up there somewhere, so you can actually see that video also. But this one is important for anyone who uses this one for the APIs, I think primarily it's being used for. And I think it's a good thing to remove this one. The only thing I complained about before was that make sure it's very visible that this is something, a functionality that you remove for the users. So they know that this one is very important for you to look at. But that one is on the way, and I think it is April or something like that when this one will actually go away. So could be good to look through it already if you haven't. And this one, I don't know if they have done further improvements on this one, because we reported a couple of weeks ago that the changes that they have done to the issue view was that they can now they can expand the forms and they can review and edit it, and they can also edit it internally without opening it for the customer. So let's see. So what we have then is the you can now extend the form to review and edit. Yes, this one we can. And we can also find the ability to make form internal. Okay, so I thought we had that since forever, but yeah, you can take a form and you can make it internal. So it's only visible for the agents or the people inside of Jira, not in the portal. And they also made it more obvious that the form are internal only. Okay, so that is the change that they have made then. So it was not that we can edit it now in the form editor, and it's not that we can open it again. This one is that you have the ability to make it internal. Okay, so that's a good change. And if you haven't worked with that before, what we have, or at least what we have done in Data Center before, is that we have created, for example, internal instructions using that. You make the form internal, so making it internal so it only can be seen by the agents. And so that one we can add then in the automation. So when the ticket is being created, we get the information in the form from the customer. And then we also have the instructions automatically. So in every ticket, we actually get the instruction exactly what we should do. And we can have checkboxes and we can have text areas there. So, and this one will then be saved with that ticket forever. So this is really, really, really good. So let's see, Jira Work Management, view, edit, and manage forms better in issue view. I think this one is exactly the same thing. Yes, it looks like it's exactly the same thing, make form internal. So that is good that they are having the same behavior now in Jira Work Management and also in Jira Service Management. I like that they are getting closer and aligning the technologies between those. So this one is also very, very good. And that was it. That was the end of these change logs, and most of it, 99% of it was good. And then we had that limitation for assets that I really, really, really don't understand, and I really, really don't like. And I hope that they will address this one very clearly. How are we going to progress with this one, and where do you actually expect to stand against, for example, ServiceNow and other competitors that have a lot more competent asset management than Asset is today if we have these limitations. So I guess we will have some fun discussions moving forward. And until then, I guess the only thing that remains for me to say is that I hope that you will have an awesome day, a great week.